Welcome to your forum on local issues, problems, and solutions. This is Community Connection.
I'm Mark Zegan. Wounded Warrior Homes is a new service that provides transitional housing to single service members who are being medically discharged. They may have had a traumatic brain injury or they're suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. My guests on Community Connection, Mia Roseberry, the founder and executive director of Wounded Warrior Homes, and Robert, a former Marine who is a client of this service. Mia, how did all this come about? How did the Wounded Warrior Homes come about here in San Diego?
My husband and I were trying to find a way to be able to give back to our community that served the military. And we had service members in our house all the time. On the weekends, our house was full of Marines from 29 Palms, and we wanted to do something to support the service members that were being medically discharged. We were finding that a lot of them were going home and didn't have anywhere to go, or their care was stopping because their parents couldn't help them get to the services they needed. So after several months, we contacted the Wounded Warrior Battalion and asked them what they needed the most, and they asked for transitional housing. And our name is actually in honor of Wounded Warrior Battalion serving our wounded warriors and them asking for housing.
And before you go further, people are probably thinking Wounded Warrior Project, but that's a great organization, but that is separate from yours completely.
Yes, Wounded Warrior Project is a separate nonprofit, and they provide a lot of wonderful services. But the one thing they don't cover is transitional housing, and that's where we come in and we do transitional housing and not the other services.
And obviously, you decided you came into this, as you said a little while ago, right at the outset here, because you wanted to provide a service for those who needed this service, and there was a hole for this service in San Diego, and obviously nationwide, too.
There is.
Is anybody doing this around the country?
We're starting to see in other states. We've been contacted by a lot of other people in other states, Texas, New York, Florida, Virginia, that are interested in, whether they can start a program similar in their area or if we're willing or interested to come out and start transitional housing there. But right now, since we're such a new organization, we want to be well established and make sure that we're doing the best job we can here before we try and branch out anywhere else.
Former service members who have a family or who are married, it's been easier for them in this situation to find housing. That's why this service has come into why you've decided to start this service. Yes,
we specifically focus on single service members or ones that are willing to live as a single. Maybe living with their family right now is not the best for them, so they're coming in as single service members.
Before this, obviously, this is a new service, which you say you started this in 2011. Before any such service like this, were those individuals who were in Robert's situation, who we will find out more about that, what were they doing?
A lot of them are ending up homeless, or they're struggling and couch surfing with their friends. They're moving into situations, with roommates or other people that aren't working out for them and living in their cars. It really is becoming a struggle for guys who don't necessarily have an option once they get out. Home may not be it.
It's very unfortunate after what an individual has done for their country that you've come to a point where you wind up homeless when you leave the service because of issues which happened while you were serving your country.
Absolutely.
And this is a way to perhaps help them. Obviously, you have. Now, Robert, who is our other guest here, a client of the service, or I guess I should say a former client, as you were in the transitional housing for a couple of years, right at the beginning. In fact, you were one of the very first clients of Mia Roseberry.
Yeah, I moved into the first transitional home on September 14th, and by January 3rd, I had straightened my life out on my own, where I was able to move out and get my own place.
Now let's go back.
A quick stay.
Let's go back a little bit. We'll talk about your experience in the housing. You joined the Marines, and you were in for how long?
Well, my discharge paperwork told me 8 years, 7 months, and 19 days. That's just what the paperwork told me.
So you joined back. It was a 2000.
January 12th, 2004 was when I originally arrived to South Carolina, Parris Island, for my 13 weeks of boot camp, the training.
And, of course, once you finished boot camp, you were assigned, and where did you go?
I went to MCT, North Carolina, for 3 weeks for the combat training, then down to Pensacola, Florida for aviation ordnance training for 2 months, out to California for 2 months for more training, and then right into my first unit on August 28th, 2004.
And you were sent to?
Camp Pendleton, California, to a helicopter squadron.
And after you were finished at Camp Pendleton with more training, then you went off to the Middle East?
Well, I arrived there August 28th, 2004. January 31st, 2005, I was standing in Kuwait City International Airport on my way to Iraq.
That seemed pretty quick, probably.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's what I wanted. It was what I joined to do.
That's why you joined. You were looking for something to serve your country in some way, and you decided, and you volunteered, you joined. And there you are sitting there in Iraq, and you did a number of tours of duty.
I deployed 4 times from 2005 to 2010, which was a total of 10 years. Or not 10 years, 2 years in Iraq. So.
I guess this is going off the topic a little bit, but do you think that many tours of duty is a good thing in the long term for an individual? Or?
At the time, it wasn't, because the first 2 were mandatory. And when it came up time for my re-enlistment, I re-enlisted saying I wanted to continue to deploy to combat zone. That's how I got the 3rd and 4th one. Then after that, they sent me to Japan. But what it was my crutch. That's how I dealt with it, because I was with the casualty evacuation unit. So if someone was wounded, we would fly in like an ambulance, pick them up, and bring them back. I actually carried a guy once, and then I had 4 friends killed after during my second deployment.
Now, these situations that you found yourself in obviously led to you had some problems with these situations, and making the transition to regular life caused some issues apparently.
When I was active duty, I had real bad drinking. I was down to a half bottle a night of whiskey, where after a 6-month period, we stopped counting at 140 empty bottles.
This is while you were on active duty?
Yes, and that's how I dealt with it, was drinking and coping with it, and then that would suppress my stuff. I quit drinking on my own, and that's when it fully surfaced. It came to full surface in Japan. And that's right. They recognized the problem, sent me to Wounded Warrior Battalion for a 1.5 years of treatment.
Well, they officially said this is post-traumatic stress?
Yes, that's when I was officially diagnosed in December of 2010.
But you think probably you had been, obviously, you were, as you say, you had a drinking problem. It was bothering you for well before that.
Yeah, I just never looked at it as was a problem. It was, I did this. Everybody goes through this. I'm a Marine. I'm tough, and I drank.
Yeah, it's a tough job, and you're thinking, well, what's wrong? I mean, what's wrong with this? Yeah. Obviously, there is something wrong if you're having that many drinks in a short period of time. So you're in Japan, and you're diagnosed. Take it from there.
Well, I arrived in Japan into August 2010. I slowed down drinking on my own because I realized it was starting to become a problem. Quit drinking on my own, and a week later, I had my very first flashback. I was in the shower, went back to where I was carrying the guy and everything back in Iraq in October of 2006. Wound up taking my medicine, but I took too much because I took the first one of Klonopin, blacked out, and took 2 more when I was blacked out. Called a Japanese taxi and took that to the emergency room. And I woke up in the emergency room, and then that's the next day my doctor said, okay, you really do have issues, and they worked with me, and a month later I was at the Wounded Warrior Battalion.
And you were out of Japan at that time?
Yeah.
And was that the end of your service career then?
Or? Yeah, because I was told, you're going to Wounded Warrior Battalion. When you go there, you're given a choice. Do you want to continue to the fleet, or do you want to get out? And I was burnt out. I told them, I'm done. I just want out.
Yeah, for you, it was, as you said beforehand, you had 4 tours of duty. And again, looking back, that's probably too much, do you think?
Yes, but it was...
At the time, though, you wanted to go back. This is your job.
Yeah, because we were there to provide... We were flying ambulance for wounded.
Yeah.
Marines, soldiers, civilians, Army, Navy. It didn't matter. We would fly in and pick you up. And that's what I loved to do, was helping people.
You were helping others. That was your job, to help those who were wounded, to help those who were, in trouble. But obviously, it left its mark on you.
Yes, it did. But I mean, I don't regret anything. And I tried to go to Afghanistan, and I would still go if they let me, but I don't think I'd make it.
Robert, I think you've done more than your share. That's for sure. Yeah. Robert, a former Marine, he is a former client of Wounded Warrior Homes. That is what we're talking about here. Also, our guest Mia Roseberry. She is the founder and executive of Wounded Warrior Homes. So, Robert, you're leaving the service. Mm-hmm. What was the first step? And obviously, you had post-traumatic stress to deal with. What came after the story you told us in Japan? Then you came back to the States.
Yeah, I spent 1.5 years at the Wounded Warrior Battalion getting treatment, and we had to have a minimum of 3 appointments a week. And I was doing all the doctors, I was going to the groups, I was doing everything, and eventually I realized it wasn't what I wanted. And I stopped taking doctor's medications April 2011 and got into natural healing with meditation. I was doing meditation 5 days a week with a group, doing 2 to 3 times a day. And that's what actually led to me where I was able to come off medication and relax. And now
That's interesting. Who told you to go into meditation?
nobody. I did it on my own because I saw.
Okay, because a lot of doctors, they go, well, that's very nice. But I think that's a good idea. I think meditation can help just about everybody. So how did you found that out just on your own, or a little investigation on that?
Well, I was actually part of a guinea pig for the Navy called Healing Touch, where some of us were selected to go through it, and we was like a massage, but they don't touch you. They just move the energy around your body, and they would give me this guided imagery audio to listen to. And I found out that was helping me so much. And I learned that, okay, well, if I can do that, and then I learned about all these different types of guided imagery, different types of meditations. And I started taking classes and learning about all these different meditations. And now I have a huge tool bag. When I go to my episodes, I can control it.
What would it, if we can ask, what would one an episode be? Let's say
You can see me shaking right now, real bad.
Oh no, I don't even notice that at all. I mean, this is, we're just having a conversation. This is, we're no problems here. But at the same time, you probably are thinking about what has happened in the past.
Well, like right now, I'm focusing on the chair. I'm feeling how the chair feels in the seat, feeling my toes wiggle my shoes. I'm feeling the cold at the table. I'm focusing on the now instead of the Iraq, and that's the Iraq stuff's making me. I'm shaking uncontrollably, but.
And you have your service dog. You have Bravo with you by your side.
Yeah, he's sleeping.
He's taking a little snooze right now. But what does he do for you?
He's my anchor, I like to call him. If I start going into my flashbacks or hallucinations, or even just a normal bad day of depression, I have him there to help play with me and to go on walks. We walk a minimum of 2 miles a day.
Let's describe Bravo so everybody knows what type of dog he is.
About a 91-pound black lab.
Okay.
He's a big boy.
He's a good-looking dog, too, and I think we've now drawn a little picture of what he's like, so we know a little bit of your background. So what happened and why you had used the Wounded Warrior Homes Project. Mm-hmm. Now, we have a few minutes before the break. Mia, we will obviously, in the next segment, we'll be going into a lot of what you do. We do know that you have some fundraisers coming up, so let's talk about one you have coming up right away.
The Mission Valley Craft Beer Festival. It's at the Hanlery Hotel on March 24th. And the Hanlery Hotel has been wonderful to choose Wounded Warrior Homes as the charity for the event. So it's 30 breweries, 20 chefs, and 3 bands. And if you're a foodie or you like beer or both, you've got to be at this event. It really is a lot of fun, and the food and beer are amazing.
Can you get tickets by going to your website?
You can go to our website at woundedwarriorhomes.org. You can go to a Facebook page, which is Wounded Warrior Homes, or you can go to the Mission Valley Craft Beer Festival Facebook page.
I also would recommend those to go to the woundedwarriorhomes.org website. There is an awful lot of information there. Of course, you can also donate to the cause. You can volunteers. You also need volunteers.
Always.
And they'll probably be accepted very warmly. There's also issues here. There's information about really how individuals wind up with the stress syndrome, as Robert was talking about. There's a lot of interesting information here. As it said, some 97% of American troops wounded in Iraq come home alive. However, they wind up experiencing a lot of issues, as Robert was talking about. And as we get into, we could take a quick break, but we'll talk more about Wounded Warrior Homes. My guest, the founder and executive director of Wounded Warrior Homes, Mia Roseberry, and Robert, who has been a client of the service. He was a client for 2 years. He'll explain exactly how it worked for him in just a few minutes. We'll be right back on Community Connection. I'm Mark Zegan.
Make good nutrition and physical activity part of your family's daily lifestyle. Be our guest to healthy living and visit letsmove.gov to learn more. Brought to you by Let's Move, the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Ad Council.
Come to the forest. It's a place not so far away where you don't have to mow the lawn or babysit. Ask your parents to take you to where the other you lives. But first, stop by discovertheforest.org, brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
I'm Mark Zegan. Welcome back to Community Connection. Wounded Warrior Homes, that's what we are talking about today. This is a service which is fairly new. It's based here in San Diego, and hopefully, maybe, it can go nationwide eventually, because it's a great idea. This provides transitional housing to single, unmarried service members who are being medically discharged because they have traumatic brain injuries or post-traumatic stress disorder, and they need a place to go. In many ways, there was no place for them to go. My guests here, Mia Roseberry, who came up with the idea for these individuals, a place for them to go until they found another place to live. The founder and executive director of Wounded Warrior Homes is Mia Roseberry. Robert, who has been a client of Mia's service. Again, Mia, let's kind of reset. Tell us again about Wounded Warrior Homes, what the process, what you do, and how it came into be.
We provide transitional housing, as you mentioned, for single service members with traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress. And we work primarily with service members from Iraq and Afghanistan that are either getting out or have been out for a little while and just really need a roof over their head, a place to land, to call home until they can get, the things that life that they need to get back in order on track. And then they transition.
These statistics are really kind of tough here. 30% of returning veterans have some sort of stress disorder. 40% of these men wind up homeless from time to time. And as Robert will explain to us later, that happened to him for a short period of time. 20% require that is lifetime care, and that's a shocking number.
It really is. There's service members that need much more than we handle. We just work with the service members that need transitional housing. But the hardest part right now with Iraq and Afghanistan is, as Robert mentioned, each service member has a way of dealing with what's going on for them. And it's not necessarily right away. It tends to be down the line that they find out that, hey, I have post-traumatic stress, or something's going on and I don't know what it is. And then they start to struggle, and that's when all the problems tend to start. So being able to catch that and get some support from the VA, and then be able to get into transitional housing if family isn't an option for you, really gives them, not a handout, just gives them the opportunity to stop long enough, figure out what they need to do, and be able to get those things back on track.
And you are certainly, Mia, fulfilling a need, there was a gaping hole for this transitional housing for unmarried, single, former veterans, which needed to go somewhere. So you came up with the idea. How did you wind up starting? Well, okay, let's go find homes. What was your first step?
Well, the first thing was trying to figure out, how we could really get in touch with the military community and be there for them and find out what they needed from us. So once we connected with the Wounded Warrior Battalion and they told us they needed transitional housing, it was a matter of just really talking to them and working with them and the C5 unit at Balboa Hospital, saying, if I were to create this program, what does it need to look like for you to feel comfortable to transition your service members to us? So we built the program based on their requirements. What do they want it to look like? And we have a house in Vista. It's a 3-bedroom. A private landlord found us, and we're on 2/3 of an acre. Each guy has his own room. They pay below market rent. We subsidize the majority of it. And it's fully furnished. Utilities and everything are covered. And the rooms, they basically, all they have to do is bring what they have with them, their clothes, and move in, and everything else they need is there.
And, of course, you're a 501c3, so you are a nonprofit organization.
Yes, sir.
So you are obviously looking for help. It wouldn't be if somebody could donate a house to you. Wouldn't that be something?
Oh, that would be heaven.
That'd be huge.
That would be great, because the biggest thing for us right now is we're still a volunteer staff, and all our fundraising. We have a couple of corporations that donate for operational costs, but then 99% of our fundraising goes directly into our housing program to help supplement the rent. So if we're covering utilities and close to $1,000 of the rent on our own every month, that money tends to go pretty fast.
Yeah, and right now you're leasing that house in Vista.
Yes.
And you hope to lease others.
And long term, we'd love to purchase this one. The owners, working with us over time, that maybe the money will be there for us over time, but right now we want to not buy, because that will give us more money to help more squad members in more places. We can rent another house or rent an apartment.
And the housing is near a VA facility.
We are in
Usually.
Vista, right off of the 78, so we're very close to public transportation. So you can catch the Sprinter. There's a VA in San Marcos, a VA in Oceanside. They can get down to La Jolla. They can get to Camp Pendleton. We're close to 3 community colleges. So
so the individuals who are using your homes, using your service, are close to whatever they need, especially if they're working with the VA and services from the VA and treatments or whatever, as we talked about in the first segment of the show. They're right there.
Yes.
Right, and that's the goal for more housing. So of course, you've got the VA in La Jolla. There's a VA in Mission Valley.
There's a VA medical center in Oceanside, and there is a VA counseling office in San Marcos. And if they need things, they can go to the VA La Jolla, and they can go down to Balboa Hospital, which is down by Balboa Park.
Mia Roseberry, she's the founder, executive director of Wounded Warrior Homes in San Diego, and, of course, the website to find out more, woundedwarriorhomes.org. Robert, a former Marine, a client of the service. Okay, we were picking up your story. You're back here in the States. You're getting treatment for stress disorder. How did you wind up getting involved in the housing?
Well, when I was at the Wounded Warriors, it was coming to my time where I was going to be medically retired. And so all my VA paperwork came back saying, you're retired August 30th. And this is around June. So I started looking, where can I go? And all the places I was going to were turning me down because they had to have a family or a kid. And I'm single, and I tried to claim Bravo as a dependent, but it wouldn't work. I even tried that on the taxes, and it didn't work either. But everybody was getting turned down. So what I did was I saved up a lot of money, paid off my car off 6 months in advance, paid off my credit cards, and that's what I was using to live on for the first 6 weeks before she was there trying to help me, but she didn't have the house yet. So my first 6 weeks were hotels, couch surfing, and I ended up in a homeless shelter. That's where the VA sent me.
Yeah, I find that hard to believe. Were you getting a pension from your pension
Not
yet?
at that moment.
Not at that time.
No, because it takes a while to kick in, but I was getting paid from the government, but I was using that to pay for my hotels.
Yeah. You wound up you were paying top dollar.
Yeah, so I maxed out my credit card and actually wound up in a homeless shelter. I was only there 15 minutes before I realized I'd hit rock bottom. And after 15 minutes, I walked out and told them I wasn't ready. And 4 months later, that's with the help of Mia through her transitional home, I now have a 2-bedroom house with a yard and to myself.
And I just want people to think about transition. And if they were not with us in the first half of the show, what you did for your country, and suddenly there you are in a homeless shelter. I just find that this is terrible.
The reason I wound up there is because I was so unstable with my stuff. I was having daily flashbacks.
And of course, and you had issues too. And this is all because of your service. But I guess I won't go any further on that. But no, you needed to go to you were having a service in the VA, and you needed a place to live. And Mia's obviously filling this need with the Wounded Warrior Homes. So anyway, you wanted to you were in this home. How did this work out for you?
Well, it worked out. I mean, I got my own house now.
Yeah,
because I was able to finally come in, and being there, it was a steady environment where I could work on myself is what I needed. Realizing where I was going, what I was doing, and also with the flashbacks and hallucinations where they would come so vivid that I would physically have blood on my hands 6 years later.
Still happening when you were in the...
Just a few months ago, I was walking down a street and went to one of my flashbacks where there was blood on my hands, and I'm standing by the side road shaking my hands, and it wasn't happening. And I started petting Bravo, and it brought me out of it.
So you and Bravo were in that house together.
Yes.
Were any other members? You were the only person in that house at that time?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, obviously, as you said, Mia, there are numerous people.
Right.
3. But but Robert was the first. So.
Robert was our first, and Robert, we kind of laughed. We said, "Okay, you're our test subject. You tell us what's working in our program, and we'll make a change. If we need to make any changes, and where do you need our support, and how can we best serve you?" We had a squad member that was supposed to be moving in a couple months ago, but he got sick, and he's actually moving in on Friday.
So, looking back, how did the project work for you? How
it
did
was great because where I was going, I mean, there was all the helps there, the help from the different organizations, but it was hard for me because I couldn't ask for help because I was stubborn. I'm a Marine. I deployed to Iraq 4 times. I don't need help.
Guys are just stubborn, period. And now add the Marine on top of that.
And that led me to where it spiraled so out of control so fast. And with them, it helped me come to a place, realize, hey, I can accomplish things. I can do this, and that's where I led.
And you have. In fact, you spent really not that long in the transitional housing.
Just 4 months.
That's pretty quick. Well, obviously you're still new at this, Mia, so you don't know really whether that's quick or normal.
Well, every individual's different. My background is in special education, so every individual's different. Sometimes, in Robert's case, it's the perfect example. He has the capability of managing the things he needs to manage in his life, but he actually needs some stability underneath him in order to do those things. So from the day he moved in, he had goals. His goal was to start school. His goal was to get all his paperwork in order. Mm-hmm. We had an incident where he got in a car accident, but he managed taking care of all of that stuff on his own. And he is starting school next month. He's been able to get his paperwork in order. He's managed his stress. He's got back on his regiment, and he literally moved out 7 months earlier than he planned because he was able to reach the goals that he'd set for himself. I need to do these things. I need to get my money in order. I need to be able to start school. And then when I do that, I can move out. His money's in order. He starts school next month. So he's on his own. But we are definitely here as a resource for him. We're still staying in touch, and we're going to work together. And Robert's offered to work with squad members as they come in.
That's great. Now, I was going to bring that up, that you can you are a spokesperson for Wounded Warrior Homes because you've been there. You saw how great it worked for you. And you have a great opportunity to help others. To continue to help others as you did in the service. Mm-hmm. You're just doing it in a different way. Yeah,
because I've learned so many different techniques. And, it's different than what the doctors want me to do. But that's why I tell them, if it helps me and gets me to go where I'm going, what's the difference between your treatment that you want me to go and tell me I'm doing it wrong?
Where are you going to go to school?
It's down at San Diego Christian College. My friend, I'm actually another guinea pig for that, where I'm coming through. I'm going to go one night a week, Tuesday from 6 to 10 for the 4 hours and get 12 credits. So I'm getting a full GI Bill benefit. And my mind, I can't focus. So with going one night a week, it's going to help me get that, where I can do the 12 credits instead of being bombarded by classes.
And eventually, when this is all finished, what would you like to do?
Honestly, don't know.
That's okay. You don't have to know now. Just go. Yeah, that's a great way to just go with the flow, in whichever way it works out. And I hope that works out perfectly for you. Now you've got your home, your new home. And did you ever think a few years ago it was going to work out this well?
No, I was wanting to do my 20 years. I was actually on track to pick up staff sergeant and in the zone to start picking up staff sergeant. But when all my stuff surfaced, that kind of derailed me, and I retired as a sergeant, and I have no regrets of what I've done. It's been a rocky road and painful and full of blood and tears, but I just keep going no matter what.
And for everybody, I'll thank you for your service to our country, and Mia, thank you for what you've done here. You have really filled a gap which needed to be filled. Those who are married or have children, even though they have the same stress disorders, is seemingly easier for them, but not as easy for those who are single.
Well, when you have a family, you have a built-in support system, and it makes you a little, whether you're having a good day or a bad day, there's someone there to watch over you and help you and support you, just like when when any of us are with our family. But when you're out there by yourself and there really isn't anyone to watch over you or, support you or be there just to say, how are you today? Things can get out of hand. What Robert fails to tell you is he also has a business. And he makes service dog vests. The one Robert Bravo has one on today.
Has a blue vest on.
And this particular one is very cute, but they're all individually made, and Robert can custom make them. And that's one of the things that he's taught himself to do that helps, keep him busy and keep his mind going.
Okay, we've got about a minute. So, again, we got upcoming fundraiser.
We have a fundraiser at the Mission Valley Craft Beer Festival on March 24th. And we're going to have a motorcycle poker ride in June and a concert, hopefully, on the Midway in September. So you'll have to watch for those. And there are more fundraisers. Just go, and the website is woundedwarriorhomes.org. And you have a phone number, too, that people can... Our number is 760-483-3553. Well, I thank you both for joining me on Community Connection. Mia Roseberry, the founder, executive director of Wounded Warrior Homes, filling a need which obviously had to be filled. And Robert, former Marine, and there for 9 years, thank you for your service. You've told us your very, very touching story of how this has all worked out for you, and we certainly appreciate you joining me today.
I'm Mark Zegan. That's Community Connection. Thanks a lot for joining us today.